welcome. My name's Alison, the online piano tutor and the online violin tutor. Today is another tutorial which has been requested by one of my YouTube subscribers. It's going to be a piano tutorial this time, and the piece I'm going to be going through is called Echoes of Yesterday by Randall Hartsell. So I'll leave the name of the piece and the composer in the comment box underneath, and possibly if I can find one, a link to the music that you guys can buy if you're interested. So what I thought I might do first is play it through for you, or I might not actually play all the way to the end, I might just play halfway or part the way through for you. It does actually repeat to the beginning of the song halfway through, so I might just play to that point there, otherwise the video will just be so long. I just need to mention that this is my version of how to play this piece. There are many different ways of playing this. This is just my version, my interpretation. So some of you guys out there might not like the way I play this. You might think it should be played another way. That's absolutely fine. As long as your way is musical and it doesn't take away from the effect that the composer wants from a sort of piece like this, you can do whatever you want. So this is my interpretation, so hopefully you guys like my interpretation. I'll be going through a little bit about my interpretation and what I've done to make it my own version, but hopefully you'll like it. Okay, so I'm going to start going through the piece with you now, and the first thing that I noticed about this is that it's in the key of A minor, and that the time signature is 3/4, so there's 3 beats in every bar. 1 2 3 1 2 3. So that's the feel of the piece, because basically the rhythm is more or less the same all the way through this. So you've got 6 quavers per bar, with the occasional 3 crotchets per bar as well. So in terms of rhythm, this is actually quite simplistic in terms of rhythm, because you've got the same thing going all the way through, because you've got the same rhythm going all the way through, with the occasional 3 crotchets, or I'm sorry if you can't see that too clearly. I'm trying to get in focus with me, and I'm trying to get the piano in focus as well. So that's the first thing. Also, what I noticed as well is the way the whole music is constructed. Pretty much all the way through this, he's got 2 quaver notes with the left hand, followed by the other 4 quaver notes in the right hand. So you've got, with the left hand, starting from the beginning, if you can see that last bit at the end there. So you can always tell what's left hand and what's right hand, because it's actually been indicated on the music, LH and RH. So I would say all the way through, I've been playing the first 2 quavers of every bar with my left hand. The other 4 quavers I've been playing with my right hand. Now, some of the left hand does actually go very high up. It does actually go into the upper register of the piano, normally where the right hand would play. But don't let that put you off, because it just means that if you were to write those really high notes in the bass clef, which is what the left hand would normally read, you'd find you'd be looking at an awful lot of ledger lines and it would be very difficult to play. So what they do is when you've got the left hand going quite up into the right hand section, or encroaching into where the right hand would play, they often just put the left hand into the treble clef notes, just because it looks easier to read. So read the note exactly as you would if you were playing it with the right hand, for example, but only your left hand's going to be playing it. Moving on to pedal, I'm finding that I'm pretty much pedaling what the composer suggests. So his phrases tend to be about 4 bars long. So the first phrase would start at the beginning and it would end at the end of the 4th bar. I've held the pedal all the way through that phrase, and I'm not going to change the pedal until the next phrase. It's just simply because it's based on the same arpeggio. So it sounds nice to keep the pedal all the way down. My first instinct as a pianist would be not to keep the pedal on for that many bars. However, I did experiment with changing the pedal every bar and seeing what that would sound like, but to be honest, it actually sounded quite nice to keep the pedal down all the way through. As long as you don't cross harmonies and cross chords with the pedal, you're absolutely fine. So for example, if I did cross harmony or cross pedals into the next phrase or the next section, this is what it would sound like. Now that might technically sound okay to some of you, but you can just hear a blurring of the harmonies going across there. Eventually, after you've sustained a note, it will disappear, but it just, for more advanced pianists, for example, who might be able to hear the harmonies a bit better, it just sounds a bit too blurred and it just sounds a bit too muddly. So if I change the pedal every single bar, this is what it sounds like. So it just sounds a little bit empty, I feel. So in terms of pedal, I've been changing it every section or every phrase that the composer has written, and that seems to work actually very well. One thing that I do notice as well about this is that at bar 33, it seems to me, more or less, with the exception of maybe the odd note or two in the ending, is that the whole piece does actually repeat again. So in theory, you would only have to really get the hang of the first 32 bars or thereabouts, because the next few bars after that it's about twice as long again. So for the next 30 or 33 bars or so, you would actually be doing more or less the same as the beginning. The exception of it just changes a little bit in the last phrase or the last four bars or so at the end. But since it's pretty much in the same character of the whole piece of music, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I can potentially see a problem with some of you guys trying to read the really high notes, the ones with all the ledger lines. So for example, if you were looking in bar 3, that right hand does go awfully high, but the only thing you can do with that is just to count up the lines and spaces as you would if you were trying to work out the notes normally. So here is actually when it starts to get tricky, or around about here. If I was just to take maybe these 3 notes, just because they look a bit clearer, I know that in one of my previous videos I've actually done a tutorial on how to read music. If I started at the bottom, I know that the bottom line is E for every good boy deserves football. This top one here will be F, in the space G, in the line A, in the space B, and this top note here would actually be C. So that would be a C there. I can see this one's moving up the next step, and I can see that one's the next step on from that. So C, D, and this one would actually be E flat. Once I've done that, I could probably then work out some of these other notes as well, but just count up the lines and spaces: F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and this one here would be G. So if you guys feel like you need to write some of those upper notes in, then that's absolutely fine. Go ahead and do that, just so that you remember them. With dynamics and expression, I'm following what it says on the music really. I would say as a general rule of thumb though, just play as you feel. I mean, like I said at the start, there is no right or wrong with this, and someone listening to my version that I played at the start might totally hate that, or think I played it too slow, played it too fast, played it like this, played it like... But that's my interpretation, that's how I feel this should go. So this is all my experiences, all my emotions, all the collections of all the pieces that I've ever played throughout the years, and I put that all together, and this is what I get from the music. This is how I feel it should go. So hopefully you guys like that. But I normally say to my students as a general rule of thumb that if you feel the music building, if you feel the notes going higher, then you can play a little bit louder. If you feel the notes gradually working down lower, then play a little bit softer. Also, as you might have noticed, I slightly held on the first note of some of the phrases. So if I just over-exaggerate it, this isn't what you would do, I'm just going to over-exaggerate so you can hear what I mean. So I wouldn't actually play it like that, so don't get me wrong, don't play it like that. That's just an over-exaggeration, just so you can hear what I'm doing. So take what I've just done there, and maybe half it, and then you should have the right kind of emphasis. So I'm only really doing that on the first note of each kind of phrase or of each section. So here as well. And here. And here. I'm also doing what's called rubato. That's an Italian term for kind of robbing time, if you like. So what I'm actually doing is speeding up in certain passages, but where I've sped up and stolen a bit of time, I'm going to slow down a bit later on and give back that time. So I've still got the same amount of time, if all of that makes sense. But what I'm doing is just, I'm speeding up, but however much I've sped up, I'm going to slow down just the same. And again, I tend to be speeding up during the phrases. I'm slowing it back down here to give myself back some time. Starting slow, building up, giving it back here. So it also says poco writ there just before the beginning of the new section. The beginning of that second section where you've got all those A flats seems a bit darker a little bit as well, a little bit sadder. So you can just play around with that as you like. Follow the directions that it says on the music. Those big sort of those big arrows that you get all the way over the music. If the arrow is going to a point, if it's so if it's bigger on the left side and it's going down into a point, it means it's getting softer. If it's the other way round, if it starts at a point on the left hand side and then gradually moving to the right, the way you read music from left to right, if it's gradually getting louder, if it's gradually getting wider, sorry, it means that the music's going to be getting louder. You've got a few MPs, which is mezzo piano, so it means kind of moderately soft, mediumly soft, not too soft, but sort of a medium soft, because you do have a few Ps as well, which are piano, and that does mean soft. So as long as you've got somewhere, if you're playing moderately soft, MP, as long as you've got somewhere to go after that, as long as you can afford to play softer. You've also got some MFs, which are mezzo forte, which is like moderately loud, and you do have some fortes as well, the Fs, and that is loud. So I would just say follow that, but the key with this is the dynamics, and I'd say rubato. If you can learn to put rubato in, then This really does make these pieces like this totally come alive. I always think it's the difference between someone playing a really good version of this and just someone playing, yeah, an okay version of this. Let me see if I can play a little bit to you, the first page or so, with no expression, and hopefully you can see the difference. So this is no expression. I might put some dynamics in, but I'm just going to play it as flat as I possibly can. So that was no expression at all, no rubato, and hardly any dynamics in there at all. Now I'll play it, putting in the rubato, putting in the expression, and putting in the dynamics. And also, if you see I'm moving around a lot as well, I kind of feel that I need to do that. I just can't sit there and not move, and I have to move to feel the expression. This is a very flowy, emotional, expressive piece, and you have to do that if you want to put the emotion in it. So hopefully you can see the difference between putting the expression and the rubato in. But like I say, I think the key to this is rubato. If you can feel, if you sort of feel the hurried tempo throughout the phrases, you can definitely feel it in the first section. It feels like it wants to get there a lot quicker, but then you're slowing it down on the last three notes. So where I've sped up, I'm catching my breath again on the last three notes to bring it back down again. It gives me more, it makes it sound more dramatic. It also gives me a more dramatic entrance when I'm coming down onto the next phrase. And of course the phrases after that. So just go as you feel, just let yourself go, don't be restricted. And see, just experiment and see how you do with that. I would say that things like expression, dynamics, emotion, all that kind of stuff is the last thing you put into something like this. So I would suggest that you just have a go at playing the notes first, just so that you can get the music sorted. Write in some of those higher notes if you can't remember what they are. They pretty much repeat all the way through, so it shouldn't be too kind of challenging in a way once you've written those notes in. So get the hang of the notes first. Then I would suggest you start putting the pedal in. Experiment with the pedal. Remember that your ear is the best weapon against the pedal. You pedal for your ear. You don't necessarily pedal for the music, but I was always taught that, and I always do teach my students, that you always pedal with the ear. If the ear thinks it sounds muddly, change the pedal. The ear should always be listening. So once you've put the pedal in then, and you've got the notes, then you can start working on the expression and the rubato. I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial. Just once again, these are just my thoughts. This is my interpretation of Echoes of Yesterday. This is how I would personally choose to play it. I hope you guys really like it. There are many interpretations out there. as I'm sure you've probably all discovered and everything. But this is mine, and hopefully I've helped you all and given you some kind of insight into what you can sort of put into this and the difference and what you can get out of it. So thanks very much for watching. Please take a look at my other videos, and I'll catch you all next time.